I snuggled with my boyfriend and I shivered. We were held at gunpoint. Just one wrong move and the crowd would pounce on me. I didn't want that at all. So I straightened up and I focused on the music. The game would continue. Hello everyone! I'm Emma and I'm 16. Have you watched the Squid Game Korean drama? I bet you have. And thanks to that, I became the most popular girl in school. But I had to join that crazy game myself and pass the same tests as the characters of the series. Our game had it all. Soldiers, shootings, marbles, betrayals, massacre. No, I'm just kidding. There wasn't any massacre. But you'll have to watch yourself to find out what really happened. I wasn't used to standing out at school. And that day, as usual, I comfortably settled at the back desk, stacking my textbooks and preparing to take a nap. When suddenly, our principal came into the classroom, and I didn't feel so sleepy anymore. Especially when I heard the news.
Guys, it's time to choose the school's president. This year, we decided to decline the usual format of elections with noisy campaigns, slogans, and public debates. And whichever one of you is worthy of becoming a leader, you'll have to decide for yourself, in any way convenient. In 1 week, I'm going to be waiting for the new president of the school in my office.
Everyone around seemed like they'd gone crazy. They were literally suggesting anything. Secret ballots, drawing straws, running races, setting a rap battle. But none of these ideas satisfied a majority. And that's when I heard my old rival's voice, Stella. What if we arrange our own Squid Game with the same tests as were shown in the series? It was one of those awful silences in the classroom. I saw the scared students' faces. They were obviously frightened. The silence was thankfully interrupted by my boyfriend, Joseph.
Are you serious? And what are you suggesting?
Oh, it's very simple. Those who don't want to participate become the staff, and they'll monitor compliance with the rules. And those who have dropped out will grant wishes, no matter how crazy or shameful they might be.
You probably won't believe it, but
Stella's idea actually worked. Students' hands went up one by one in agreement with her. I looked at Joseph in confusion. To be honest, I was a huge coward. So I wouldn't have agreed to do that for anything in the world. But I saw my boyfriend vote yes. And after him, I raised my hand with uncertainty. There was no turning back now. The game was beginning. After classes, we all gathered at a playground near the school to discuss the rules. Stella was so inspired by her idea that she just couldn't shut up. I propose we hold the first game tomorrow after classes. So, how many of us are there? 15 participants and 20 for the staff. For authenticity's sake, we need to come up with an outfit, just like they have in the series. Let's do this. The players will wear green tracksuits, and the soldiers can wear pink clothes and masks. You can buy them, or you can make them yourselves. And now, we just need to distribute the numbers. I put my hand into the drawing cap, and I took out a piece of paper and held my breath. Please, at least a lucky number 7. But the bad news was just waiting to disappoint me. The number that came up was 13, a common symbol for hopelessness and bad luck. No wonder I went home in a terrible mood. But things the next day got even worse. When the last class was over, everyone gathered on the playground behind the school. Of course, I knew what was waiting for us. The first and the craziest round of the game. Red light, green light. Fortunately, the scary doll, just like in the series, was not on the set, and I breathed a sigh of relief. But suddenly, a crowd of students in masks and pink suits appeared from behind the trees. Every one of them held a paintball marker in their hands. I clung to Joseph's arm with a death grip. I was never so scared before. The people in pink surrounded us, and they gave us a start. A pleasant melody was played from the speaker, and Joseph and I rushed forward. When suddenly the music stopped, and a loud clapping came to replace it. I grit my teeth and I squeezed my eyes shut. And when I opened my eyes, I saw my classmates lying around me. They were splattered with paint, and thus they had dropped out of the competition for the title of school president. I didn't want to suffer the same fate, but when Joseph and I had almost reached the finish line, the music suddenly stopped. I couldn't slow down in time, and I waved my arms to keep my balance. No, this was gonna be the end! I was so sure I'd get shot by paint when suddenly the speaker started playing music again. Joseph and I took our few last steps, and we found ourselves behind the finish line. Wow, unlucky number 13 had actually saved me. After all, no one had noticed my misstep. The losing students afterward were kicked out of the game, and only 10 people remained. I returned home happy. After all, I was a devoted fan of the series. I knew exactly what to expect in the next round. The game called Sugar Honeycombs. I made dalgona out of sugar and baking soda, and when they froze, I armed myself with a needle and I began to rehearse. Just like the main character of the Squid Game, I started to lick the candy, and I soon easily picked out that wretched triangle with the needle. Therefore, I was 100% ready for the next game. And after classes, we gathered again on the playgrounds. Suddenly, though, instead of sweets, I saw sheets of paper laid out for hopscotch. Ah, no way! They were cheating, violating the order of the cereal rounds. And now we had to deal with the glass bridge, the one that took so many lives in the drama. I reached into that same hat again, and I pulled out another piece of paper. Please, at least let me be lucky now. With trembling hands, I unfolded the paper, and there it was. Salvation. I was 9th. Of course, everything was not the same as in the series. When the guys made a mistake with the choice to sell, they read a wish made on the back of the sheet. They were out of the game, but at all costs, they had to fulfill everything that was written there. And in front of me, one by one, participants left the game. I memorized the safe cells and I followed behind in their footsteps. And only when the paper hopscotch was left behind, I realized what my luck had saved me from. Those losers were eating cockroaches, climbing tall trees, and sending their most shameful photos into public chats. I think I would die of shame if I had ever received any of those. But my 13th number didn't let me down again, and I ended up in the lucky number 4. Me, Joseph, Stella, and Dan made it all to the next round, but I didn't know what I would have to do there. The next morning, I went into the classroom when suddenly I met the defiant eyes of everyone in the class who were angry that they had lost during the tests. I clung to Joseph, and I was afraid to look up. It seemed like everyone around me hated me, but the class ended, and we were back on the playground. A new fight was waiting for us, the final round, and it was the marbles game. According to the series, I remembered that only one of the two would remain, so I didn't choose Joseph as my couple. Stella came up to me, and we decided to play tic-tac-toe. We drew cells on the ground, and we held our breath. We throw marbles into the occupying cells. The one forming a line of 3 wins. It took all of my power, but I still saw Stella's marbles lined up in a frightening row. She just needed one more throw and she would win. I squeezed the marbles. I took aim, and I broke the opponent's line! After just a few minutes, my marbles filled the 3 cells in a row, and I won. I won! I had already collected them all in a bag when Stella suddenly said, Amy, I saw you move in the first game, so if you don't give in now, I'm gonna tell the staff everything. Then they'll review the video, and you'll have to fulfill all the wishes that the losers of the previous round did. My mouth dropped open in surprise, but I quickly pulled myself together and I rushed forward with the bag. I was running, and I was hoping for a miracle, when suddenly I heard a loud scream behind me. It was Stella. My leg! Stella had run after me, but she'd fallen, it seemed, and injured her leg. Yeah, I wanted to win, but I didn't want to win like this. After my opponent was taken away by an ambulance, things got weird and scary. The guy who'd lost to Joseph didn't want to hand over his phone and started a fight. I was so frightened that I ran home, but it didn't get any better there. I was tormented by Stella's words. So, just under an hour later, I decided I would visit my rival. Stella, take my iPhone. Let's just say that I lost the test. Just please don't tell anyone about it. Put it away. I don't need anything from you. I'll keep quiet anyway. Don't worry. Oh, okay. Well, now nothing was threatening my victory. Joseph and I got to the final test, and he promised he would lose to me. I was sure that the next day I would become the president, so I came to school as happy as ever. But my mood was hopelessly spoiled. Being in our classroom had become unbearable. Students were gossiping about each other, calling each other names, and they were divided into small groups. It was so good that I had Joseph. Otherwise, I think I would have just gone crazy. Classes flew by, and Joseph and I met on the chalked squid, and I had the role of a defender. He had the role of an attacker. We were surrounded by a crowd of classmates, but I wasn't scared. I knew that this whole game was just a formality, and they called the start. I prepared to fake like I was trying to do something when suddenly Joseph jumped up and pushed me sharply. I fell, tearing something in my knee. Joseph had way overdone it. Maybe I shouldn't have played so naively. My boyfriend bent over me and I stretched out my hand, thinking he was gonna help me get up. But instead of helping, he whispered in my ear,
Sorry, honey. It's every man for himself.
And at that moment, the crowd seemed to go crazy. Joseph! 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 Come on, get rid of her! I felt like I was ready to cry, but I didn't want to do anything that would please my now ex-boyfriend. This game had gone too far. I got up, took my number off, and I tore it to shreds. Guys, look what you've become! Are you really ready to risk disgrace, suffering, betrayal, all because of some stupid game? If it's really necessary to sacrifice my conscience for the sake of victory, then I don't want to claim to the position of school president. Well, what are you waiting for? Congratulate your champion for his horrible conduct and his treachery. I went home, and oddly enough, my desire to burst into tears had gone. I felt good. Along with those words, I felt like I'd gotten a lot of negativity out, and I finally felt free. After all, I now no longer had to be afraid of payback for defeat. It only remained to fix what this game had done to us. That very same evening, I brought some treats and I visited Stella. And you can imagine she was very happy to see me because I was the only one who was worried about her health. We chatted for hours and in the end, I left her as a friend. What a pity it was that she was in a hospital bed. Stella's support would have been so useful right now. But I had to go and fight this alone. The next morning at school, I made the most indifferent look when suddenly I was surrounded by students. I tensed up and I got ready to defend myself, but one of them said, "Emma, we talked to each other and we decided we don't need a sneaky president like Joseph. We choose you. Please take the presidential position." I couldn't believe it. Did my speech yesterday really wake up the students' consciences? Yeah, this Squid Game had ended really unpredictably. I thought about the offer for a long time, and I agreed. And that's how I became the president of the school. And by my first decree, I banned violent games. Let them remain only on your